Big news! Wayfair's President's Day clearance is on now, and you can score tons of huge deals. Like Wayfair's best deals since Black Friday. Right now through February 16th, you can score up to 70% off everything home at Wayfair. Like up to 50% off mattresses with fast and easy shipping straight to your door. Plus amazing flash deals on President's Day. Shop Wayfair's President's Day clearance now through February 16th.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Welcome to Seeing with Your Soul, the podcast aimed to inspire you to find your voice and become the best, truest, and most authentic version of yourself. Spiritually intimate, soul-to-soul conversations, life-changing insights, and spiritual teaching and healing. Real, raw, unfiltered. Join your host, Tisha Michelle.
Always speak and stand in your truth, even if it means you're standing alone. Welcome and welcome back to Seeing with Your Soul. I'm your host, Tisha Michelle. So guys, by the time you are listening to this episode, it will be the first day of my spiritual retreat in Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm super excited because I have 10 beautiful souls coming from 4 different states to just really vibe out. There's some self-care, some healing, some bonding, just some good juju. I'm super excited. So if you've been listening to my podcast for a while, you know that this retreat was supposed to happen May of last year of 2020, but then COVID hit and it had to be pushed back. And I was a little bummed out in a sense. I get it. And I understand everything is in divine timing. And like, here we are. And it's like, oh my gosh. And two of the people that are coming definitely wouldn't have been here last year if I had that retreat because I didn't even know them yet. So look at that. Look how that worked out. Also, I am transitioning into hosting more retreats because that is the way that I'm going to be doing my work, working with people. So instead of just group retreats, I'm going to be offering single person retreats as well as couples. And I will have more of this information up on my website in the next couple of weeks. Just got some other projects I'm working on, and then I will have them get that information up there. But I definitely wanted to put it out there to you guys. So maybe you are someone who doesn't want to be in a big group with a big group of people and you want to get that individual work and you really don't want to do like a couple of sessions like once a week and all. You're like, you know what, let's gang bang, let's go hard at this and really let's get some transformation, some healing, whatnot. Then a single person retreat, and those retreats are going to be for just 2 days. And then if you are a couple or maybe you just want to come with like one of your friends, I'll be offering that as well. And as well as the big groups where I'll do up to 10 people. Right now on the books I have in November. And from my men, I got something coming for you. A men's retreat, November in Florida. Don't have all of the details yet, but they will also be out soon. But all of you guys, if you're just remotely interested in stuff, you can just send me a DM on Instagram at Mindset Slayer. What else? Bali retreat in September. That's still on and popping. Actually, I think I have 11 people for that and just opened up working with them. So I have another 9 slots for that as well. But in between there, I will. And I believe we're still going to do that Richmond one in July. Yikes. We're already in May. So that's coming up soon. Anyway, if you are remotely interested in a retreat, just send me a message and then we can talk, especially the single ones. It's going to be customized. So this is going to be dope. Like, it's definitely a calling and just got a lot of downloads around me moving my work more into the retreat style. So I'm super excited. But okay, anyway, enough of that. Let's kick it off with some gratitude. In this present moment, I would say that I am grateful to be back on the West Coast. I was on the East Coast a lot longer than usual. The East Coast, it's just something about the West Coast vibes. And honestly, now that I think about it, when I'm in the East Coast, I think I'm more in I'm more of like that masculine energy where I got to make shit happen, execute, I got a plan. What's this? What's that? Ah. And when I'm on the West Coast, I'm more in that feminine energy. And, you know, I'm more in that state of flow. So it's just something about the West Coast. So I'm super, super grateful to be over here. Yes. All right. So what about you guys? In this present moment, what are you grateful for? However, before you express it, let's get a little centered. You know, unless you are driving, I want you to go ahead and close your eyes. And now I want you to take a nice deep breath. And just go ahead and breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Now let's do it again. Another nice deep breath, breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Yes, yes, yes. One more. Let's take a nice deep breath, breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. So what are you grateful for? Express that gratitude. Some of you guys, I know you like to put me on pause and you just go ahead and after you've gotten centered and you like to journal what you're grateful for. And that's dope. Some of you say it in your head, say it out loud, whatever. Scan your life, scan those vibes. What are you grateful for? All right. Story time. Got a couple of little mini stories for you guys. And it was interesting how these were popping into my head. I'm really not even sure what happened, but I just remember something popped up about me allowing like other people to influence like my decision making. And these different memories were popping up. And I'm like, why is this coming up? So, you know, I'm always like, all right, bet I'm going to talk about it on the podcast. But it was really interesting. So the question that I'm going to share these stories with you, but the question that, you know, I have for you is like, what or who have you allowed to influence your decision making? And the second question is, where are you not speaking up and maybe asking for clarity or maybe some proof or another alternative, or are you just accepting what something is? So let me just give you these stories. So the first one that I want to share is when I joined the military, right? When I joined the Army. Yes, guys, shocker alert. Your girl was in the Army. I was a supply specialist / armor. So what that means is I was in charge of the supplies, anything from toilet paper all the way up to the vehicles. Anything came in, I was in charge of that. But I was also the armorer, so I was in charge of the weapons. So if they were going to go on like a road guard march. Did I say that right? I would be the one to assign them their weapons. And if they were going on they had to go to the shooting range, I would have to be out there on the range. And if it got jammed or something happened, I'd be the one to go over there to fix that shit. I know, badass, right? Let's go, baby. So that was my role in the Army. Okay, but how did I get there? So when you go to enlist into the service, you have to go through a whole bunch of stuff. You go down to MEPS and you have to pass a bunch of things. You got to take a test. First of all, you have to take a test to determine what level job you can go to, right? So it all depends on your scores. So I went into supply. I could have went into some other fields because I don't remember what my number was, but I did have a pretty decent score. But I chose supply because at the time, I was young, just freshly married, had the 2 little kids. And we moved from New York to Virginia. So I was leaving from actually Virginia, and we have Fort Lee, and Fort Lee is a quartermaster post, which means that that's the head for supply. So I knew that I could do my second part of training, do my boot camp, which I did at Fort Leonard Wood, which is in Missouri. So the second part of that training, I knew that it would happen in Fort Lee. So if I was to do my second part of training in Fort Lee, I'd be close to, at the time I was married, my husband and my kids. So they would be able to come and visit. So I was like, supply. Everybody needs somebody in supply. So that's how I ended up choosing, going into supply. Anyhow, they have to weigh you. You got to take a fitness test. They got to measure all that bullshit, right, to get in there. Well, I had tattoos. I'm always stay tatted. And I had to have a tattoo on my right leg, which was actually my very first tattoo. And I had to get a waiver for that. Because if I'm like dressed in, I have like the skirt on and, you know, in the service and stuff. You just had to get a waiver on there. So they gave me a waiver and said, it's cool, I can enlist with that tattoo. Well, we're going to pause. Probably, I don't think it was maybe like a couple of weeks, or maybe it was a couple of months before going to enlist and doing all of that. I was bored. I was in New York. Yes, you can be bored in New York. And I went and got a tattoo on my neck of a butterfly. And I got my tongue pierced at the same time. I was hella bored. Like, I'll be bugging. Anyway, so I had this dope ass butterfly on the right side of my neck. And then I got my tongue pierced. So boom, now we're going into MEPS, right? They give me the waiver for the one on my leg, but then they say that I can't enlist with a tattoo on my neck. Well, why? They said, well, because when you're standing in formation and everybody's standing next to each other, you got to look the same. So, of course, back then I'm not thinking. I'm just like, yo, I don't went through all of this. Like, I'm trying to get in. So what can I do? And they're like, well, you can get it covered up or make it look like a birthmark. All right. So I go back to the tattoo person and I'm like, make this shit look like a birthmark. So if you've ever met me in real life or maybe seen pictures and you've seen this big black mark on the right side of my neck, your ass probably thought it was a fucking birthmark. Nah, ain't no damn birthmark. It was a dope ass butterfly. I went to the tattoo guy and literally just had him draw a blob, just color it all in to make it a blob. And it looks like a birthmark. So, because I wanted to get into the military, so I did this, right? Okay, boom. Get to basic training, right? You go through your whole processing and stuff. And I see a whole bunch of white people. And I'm not trying to make this no black or no white thing. I'm just speaking the truth and what it is. All these white people, white guys, tattoos on their face, tattoos on their head. Wait, what? I mean, all throughout. And I'm like, I'm saying stuff to them. I'm like, oh, how did you get in with the name? What do you mean? I'm like, I had to get a waiver for the one on my leg. And I'm showing them, I'm like, I had a butterfly right here. And they said that I couldn't get in. And they all kept saying, oh man, your people at MEPS did you dirty. They did you dirty. So that scar has always, literally, has always been with me. And I sit back and I think about that when it jumps in. I'm like, now I'm walking around with some stupid ass thing on my neck looking like a damn birthmark. And it's just dumb. Like, I literally had them just color in something on my skin as if it was just like a piece of paper and you were just blackening something out. And I don't know what happened or what was that disconnect and why did that happen? Because there are tons of people in the military with tattoos on their neck, tattoos on their head, tattoos on their face. But you said something to me that I wasn't able to get in there. I don't even really know what like that, the lesson or anything in that's something, but I was fucking salty as hell. I was like, y'all did me dirty. Seriously. Like dude said, y'all did me dirty. And I'm just thinking about how I allowed that to influence. Like, why didn't I push back? Why didn't I say, well, what about the waiver on my leg? That makes me, like different. Like, well, what else is it that I can do to get in? Or is that really that's it? It was such a long time ago. I honestly don't think that I know I didn't push back. I just accepted what it was that they said and I really wanted to join. And I just went to the tattoo place and just had them just, like, what the fuck, yo? So as time goes on, and, sometimes I forget about it because it's not like I'm looking in the mirror. But if I'm like looking in the mirror and I'm getting ready and stuff and I see that, it upsets me. And I'm like, why didn't I do something else? Why did I allow them to influence that? Why didn't I speak up, right? Why didn't I speak up and say, wait a minute, right? Or why didn't I just say, well, screw you. The hell with the damn military if you don't want to let me in because I got a butterfly on me. That's just dumb. So that was one of the things that popped into my head about me not speaking up and allowing someone else to influence, something that I did. Right. So it's interesting, very interesting. And why this is coming up now, I guess there's part of something that may be blocking within me and I have to release that and maybe forgive the douchebag that said that dumb shit. He probably just made that shit up. Maybe he thought it was funny. I don't know. Maybe I should look the person up and just go and have a conversation. Nah, but yeah. So now you guys are probably going to go to my Instagram and look for a picture, see if you can zoom in and see what the hell I'm talking about. Actually, please do. And then send me a message and say, yo, or even if you've already seen it and if you thought that it was a birthmark, send me a message too. But just let you guys know, no, it was a cute ass butterfly. And now it's some stupid, just dark mark. Just ridiculous. All right. So the second thing that had popped in my head, really just thinking around this, was I used to study with the Jehovah's Witnesses, right? I don't really remember how I met the particular family. I don't remember, but they called my attention. Only thing I really knew about the Jehovah's Witnesses was you gotta duck them, right? You be in New York, in these places, you just gotta duck them, act like you're not at home, right? But I never had a conversation with anyone. That's all that I know, is you just ignore them, you duck them. It's like, oh my gosh, that was just that. So somehow I ended up connecting with this family, and they were witnesses, and they introduced me to it, and they asked me about going to the hall and then even like studying. So I was open, and never been a real like religious person and stuff. I went to church, before a couple of times, but I never really got a good vibe when I really think about it. It was just very uncomfortable. And then I felt like they always was asking me for money. It was like every 5 minutes I had to stand up, or we had to pass the thing around, and we either had to sing and then I had to give money. So I was like, yeah, I don't like this. So I just never really rocked with going to church. And this is nothing against any of you guys that go to church. Do your thing. Right? So now I'm studying with these witnesses, and I'm learning these different things that they're saying. And actually I was in school finishing up going for my next degree. And I had to take this class, and I think, was it a history class? It was something like that. And one of the questions and things it asked about different religions and stuff. And it was cool because I was telling them about it, and they was like, oh, you should read this book. The Jehovah's Witnesses, they have like all their own like publications and stuff. And it was this one book. I forget the name of it. Actually, I wouldn't mind getting that book again now, but that's a whole other story. Anyway, but in that book, it talked about all the different religions. It was just like all the different religions. It touched on them, and it was so fascinating because I learned a lot about the different religions, and I ended up getting an A on the paper, right? So there was these different things, and they would talk about like they don't celebrate like the holidays and how only a certain amount of people are going to go to heaven. It was very like restrictive, right? But then they talked about even in like, and don't quote me on this stuff, especially if you are a Jehovah's Witness, like if you go, basically it's like if you color outside the lines, you get in quote unquote shunned, you get in trouble, and your family and certain people can't talk to you and stuff. And again, nobody start atting me and saying, you got that wrong, because I don't know the whole thing. So I'm saying that right now. Well, they just talked about how it was like, bad people and people that were evil and different things and stuff like that. So one thing that I've always wanted to be since I was younger, one of the things was I wanted to be a lawyer. And I remember my grandfather would say stuff like, oh, you got a mouth on you. You should be a lawyer. And I don't know if he put that in my head or what, but I always wanted to be a lawyer. But it was really more so like, do I really want to go to law school? That's just ridiculous. Like, do I want to take all that time into school? So that was something that was kind of really holding me back in that sense, right? So teaching moment real quick. So I've always wanted to be a lawyer, but what it really comes down to it with the lawyer, because I wanted to be with a defense, like the defense attorney, right? I wanted to like defend people. And what that really was, when I look back at it now in the big scheme of things, I really wanted to be the voice for people. I wanted to speak up for people. And I wanted to help get justice for people. And justice could be even just something within yourself, right? So it didn't necessarily, I'm not a lawyer now, but I do that work. I ended up being a CASA worker, and I was a voice for children. And I was in the courtroom. I did end up getting my paralegal degree in a sense. But, when you look back to something that you wanted to do as a child and you're like, yeah, but I'm not doing that. Really look at whatever it was that you wanted to do as a child. What was that producing, right? And look in your life and see if you're actually fulfilling that now. It just doesn't look like the way that you thought it would be as a child, but you are still doing that, right? So Yeah. Okay. So back to that. So I wanted to work with and defend people. And I remember talking to them about it. And it came up in a sense and talking to like some witnesses about like, if, when you're a lawyer, you have to take like some pro bono cases, and what it is they go into rotation. So the judge can assign you as a court appointed for someone. And it was like, if that person was like a pedophile, right? And you know that he did it, and now you have to defend them. So they got in my head about that. And then I said, no, I don't want to go to school now. I don't want to be a lawyer, because what if I end up getting a case like that for someone who is a pedophile, and then I have to take that case? Like, what would that look like? What would that look like in God's eyes if I was representing that person? So I was like, no, I don't even want to take that chance. I'm not going to do that. And mind you, I already didn't want to go to law school, because I was like, oh, it's going to just take too long. But that just solidified it and was like, nope. And it shut that shit down. And then I think about it, I allowed them to get in my head and influence me going to law school, yo. Had me afraid that I might get a pro bono case. Like, how, you see how I jumped into the future? Crazy. Yeah. So when, I'm sitting there and I think about it, I'm like, was I going to go to school? I don't know. I did go for the paralegal, and I could have went, and our family attorney had told me, he was like, at one point, this was like before then, he was like, you should go. And he's like, why don't you? And I was like, because it's too much school. And he said the time has to pass anyway. And that's something that sticks with me to this day, is that the time has to pass anyway. So whether I go to school or not, those 4 years or 5 years or whatever, law school was going to pass anyway. But I didn't get that far. I didn't get that far because I allowed them to pump fear in me, because that's all that it was. They pumped fear in me, and they influenced my decision, or something that I wanted to do with my life was changed because of someone else's beliefs that was then pushed onto me in a fearful way. Man, what? Your girl was tripping. Oh, man. Try that shit now. Try that now. All right. So another story, the last one anyway, I'm pretty sure there was some other things, but this one was a most recent one. So I was filming a show in 2018. And this is where I was interviewing people around the word authentic and like, what did that mean to them, right? And I wanted to call it Owning Your Shit with Tisha Michelle. So one of the guys that was the one that was putting it together, he was like, I really don't think you should call it Owning Your Shit. And he was like, because it might not appeal to everyone. And, if you're saying like owning your shit, some people might get scared away and they might not want to see it. They might not want to advertise. They might not want to be a sponsor just because of the name. So we ended up going with what it would have been Owning Your True Self, Tisha Michelle. So I remember getting on the plane, and I remember flying back and just saying, something is missing. Something is just not right. I was just off, and it just didn't feel right. And that was a part of it. I wanted it to be called Owning Your Shit. And if that doesn't appeal to everyone, that's okay. That is okay. I'm not going to be for everyone. You're not going to be for everyone. And that's okay. So when I look back into it, I'm like, I'll let this motherfucker. That's a whole other story too. I think I touched on it before, but that's a whole other shit with this dude. But influence the decision on what I was going to call my show. Mind you, my show. Not that somebody else was bringing me on and they was funding me and I was just the host of this show. It was my show that I was creating, all the content, all the people that I was interviewing and stuff. It was mine. And I let some outside mofo get in my head and have me change the name. How crazy that is, right? Crazy, crazy, crazy. So again, now I want to just go back to the question that I want to ask you guys, and I want you to really think about in your life, what or who has have you allowed, because that's what it is, I allowed it and you allowed to influence your decision, right? Or where you're not speaking up and maybe asking for clarity or asking for some proof or asking for another alternative, or are you just accepting what it is that someone else says, right? It's kind of like if you have an idea about something and then you go and run it by your friend or a family or something, and then they just shut that shit down. And now you're like, yo, yeah, you're right. You're right. But how are they right? Nobody's right. How are they right and you wrong? You felt a certain way about something and something that you wanted to do. But as soon as somebody else said something, which they're just projecting coming from that sense, right? So with old dude telling me not to call it owning your shit because it wasn't going to appeal to some people, that was him being uncomfortable. That was him being uncomfortable with something like that because he wouldn't have something in that sense because he was uncomfortable. And you see now here on this podcast, which is my show, I'm cursing all the time. And not once am I even thinking about, oh my God, is this going to make somebody feel uncomfortable? That's cool if you do. You don't have to listen, right? You don't have to listen. So in that sense, when I look back now, I'm like, yo, I was bugging. That was definitely in the beginning of like my awakening where I was really trying to find myself and remember myself and find my voice. I remember Jessica, who is someone who does my readings. Before that, the show where she knew I was filming because she actually was on it when we got to LA. She said, make sure you stay true to yourself. And it was actually kind of like low-key annoying. I'm like, why does she keep saying that shit? Like, of course I'm going to stay true to myself. Then when I was on the plane coming back, I was like, yo, this is what she was talking about when I had that reading. This is what she was talking about because I didn't stay true to myself. I wanted it to be owning your shit. I even have the logo and everything. I got to bring that back out for something. I don't know. It might just be a damn post or something. But yeah, when you really think about it, I mean, if things that happened in the past, I mean, there's really not much that you can do about it. You could really just look back and you can scan like me and look at this and I could just be salty about everything. Or I could just say, man, those are some opportunities where I had the opportunity to stand in my truth. There were some opportunities where I was able to speak up and I didn't. You know, I was to stand in my truth and I didn't. I took somebody else's truth and made it mine. And the only thing that I can do is give myself some grace and forgive myself for that. But look right now in my life, in this current, is there someone that's influencing my decision making? Is there an area where I'm not speaking up? I'm not asking for clarity. I'm not asking for proof or another alternative. And I want you guys to check in with yourself. And if there is something that you know that you allowed someone to influence those decisions and stuff, definitely give yourself some grace and say, you know what? I did the best that I could then. And be able to release that. And then check yourself now and look at it. Is it something that you want to do, but someone else is saying it's not a good idea? Or you're worried about what other people are going to think? So really just ask yourself and look at some things that's going on. And if you feel something to be true, and this is like your truth, and it's something that you want to do, but other people are saying like, oh, you shouldn't do it or you shouldn't do that. Stand in your truth, you know? Stand in your truth. It's yours. If there's something that you want to do it. Because there's a reason why it's popping up for you. There's a reason why it's there. There's that curiosity, right? So go ahead and follow that curiosity. And don't ever, you know, I would really be liking to tell people what to do, but I'm going to do that every now and then. Don't ever allow someone to silence you. Don't ever allow someone to influence your decision making to something that you really don't want to do, right? So yeah, there's going to be people who are going to influence us to live a happier life, just live a better life or speak our truth and stuff. And that's different because that should feel good to you. And it should feel in alignment. But it's when you are in that space of something that you want to do or planning on doing, but now, because somebody else doesn't think it's a good idea or whatever the case is, you fall back. It's kind of like when you go and you read reviews, right? You want to move into a place and you want to buy something, you read the review and you're like, oh, no, never mind. I'm not going to get that. I always tell people, read a bunch of reviews, because sometimes people are just salty for their own personal reason that they had. And it's not an overall thing. And not allow those reviews to influence if you should do this or not. You could take it into consideration and then say, really look into it and see like, you know what, this kind of seems like it might have been something a little more personal in that sense. So am I going to really base my decision making off of that? Or am I going to just experience it myself and see if this is an experience that I want to have again? All right. So really think about it. Again, I'm going to ask these questions again. What or who have you allowed to influence your decision making? And where are you not speaking up and maybe not asking for clarity or proof or another alternative? And maybe you're just accepting something as it is. And I would say, check yourself, check that, reevaluate it. If it feels true to you, if it feels good to you, then stand in that shit. And don't let anybody else influence you otherwise. Until next time, bye guys.
Thanks for tuning in to Seeing with Your Soul. If something you heard resonated with you, feel free to rate, review, and share with others. If you are looking to go deeper, you can connect with Tisha Michelle on Instagram at Mindset Slayer or visit www.healingalignedglow.com.